and welcome to the debate. I'm your host, Maqbool, with you at BTV World. In today's show, we're going to be taking a look at the developing situation in Pakistan, particularly with reference to the way that things are going forward between the civil and military leadership. We've, of course, seen the Prime Minister of Pakistan and the Army Chief addressing a conference in Islamabad today. And in their respective addresses, they have talked about the importance of this unity and the fact that Pakistan needs to move ahead on the same page between different stakeholders. While the Prime Minister, of course, praised the Army Chief with regards to what he has said about terrorism, corruption, and, of course, the way forward, he's also emphasized that it is under the leadership of General Asim Munir that this is something that has been made possible, and it is because of this unity that he hasn't seen in so many years is that Pakistan is on the right track. Of course, what's important is the kind of issues that the country is dealing with, both in terms of the kind of political issues and elements that remain unresolved, and also with regards to the issues of terrorism, including digital terrorism, that was also earlier referred to as something that the country is still dealing with. The Prime Minister has also talked about the social media campaigns that are, of course, are going on previously as well, that have also talked about the way that the martyrs are being insulted, and, of course, the way that the violence ensued, particularly May 9th last year. And then, of course, the way forward, that the way it, of course, damages the country and what needs to be done about it. The Chief of Army Staff also spoke about the need to move forward with regards to the fight against terrorism, and also with reference to the way that different countries around the world understand the importance of state and how the country's borders need to be protected, and, of course, other countries need to ensure that there are no safe havens for terrorists. He also talked about the need to control the mafias and, of course, corruption that add fuel to the fire, and what exactly will be the kind of country if we acknowledge these aspects and move forward together. So we're going to be taking a look at this address and then also understand what this means and the value it holds, particularly for these aspects, and then, of course, with the way that different political aspects of the country will also be impacted by this. For this and more, as always, in the studios, I've been joined by senior analyst Farrukh Pitafi and Raja Faisal, and I've also been joined online by Brigadier Retired Mr. Nawaz, who's a senior analyst. Thank you very much, Brigadier Sab, for joining us and being a part of the discussion. And I'm going to start with you with reference to your take on these respective addresses by the Prime Minister and the Army Chief. And while, of course, we really appreciate that both the civil and military leadership are on the same page, and the Prime Minister has emphasized that this is what he has seen in many years, the best possible scenario in this regard, and the fact that we have seen whatever is in the best interest of the country. I want your take in terms of how important and valuable this particular dynamic and nexus is, in your opinion, while we battle issues such as terrorism, political turmoil, and, of course, economic issues.
Sana, first of all, I must appreciate the way Prime Minister of Pakistan spoke, and he said we have a total harmony. There is no difference between different stakeholders of the Pakistan, because that is the most important thing. If we don't have harmony, we don't have a common interest, we're not looking in one direction, there can be different axes coming in hurdles, and then we find some difficulties. And after, of course, when the Chief Army Staff spoke, I think he really touched me hard. The way he spoke out, I felt he was talking the true feelings of a Pakistani, or I would say a soldier or a citizen. And that is what it looked, that he's really a patriot of Pakistan. And he is worried that Pakistan must reach the main heights of pinnacle. That's what he wanted all the time. And in that, particularly when he spoke that the biggest sin with the God is necessity or rights or disturbance. That is what he took. I think he spoke very loud and clear about it. And then, of course, he talked that anybody who doesn't believe in constitution and state of Pakistan, I think he is not Pakistani and he should not be tolerated. We do every effort to eliminate such people from Pakistan, and the total stern disciplinary or lawful action should be taken against them. That's the hub of his speech he was talking. Then third, the most important thing he spoke was about Afghanistan. He said, please be mindful. We are your friends. We have a cultural relationship. We have a religious relationship. And both sides are Pashtuns living together. And don't follow the footsteps of our enemy. They want to just create a difference between us. They want we should never be all together, because our relationship is very old. And for the last 40 years, Pakistan has been looking after the hospitality of almost 4 million Afghans. Out of them, 1.4 million are registered Afghan refugees with United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, and remaining are already spread all over Pakistan. And we have given a POR with the holders. We still allow them stay in Pakistan for one more year, but then there is a limit. And this is what should be appreciated by our friends and neighbors in Afghanistan. Afghan Taliban have to be very careful. This is what we all want. What do we want from them? Only one thing, which we agreed in the agreement, that your land will not be allowed to be used by any terrorist organization in any neighboring country or internationally. That is why you committed. Please fulfill your commitment. And on the contrary, what all we do for you is we give you all logistics, we give you all transit trade, we give you wheat, we give you fertilizer, we give you sugar, whatever is possible human ground, we give them. But then you should be realizing. But I personally feel that Afghans, Taliban's are thankless people. They have no regard for China. The ideology with the Khawarij is almost the same. That's the issue we see. And we're getting so many casualties. Terrorism increased once American left and they came into the interim government. Since then, things are getting more worse. And despite the fact we've been telling many times, but they are disregarding. They say there's no Khawarij in Afghanistan.
Right,
It's very
absolutely.
good.
Brigadier Harris, I'll come back to you and we'll continue the discussion, but it's time for a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the debate. We'll continue our conversation with reference to what the Army Chief and the Prime Minister spoke about earlier at a conference today, and of course talking about the way forward in terms of terrorism, including digital terrorism that Pakistan has been facing for quite some time now. Brigadier Harris, before the break we were talking about what it is to interact with the Afghan Taliban and what it means and what we can expect. And I want your take also while we talk about these issues. Of course, the fight against terrorism is very, very important to us, and there's always that aspect of the safe havens in Afghanistan. But if that is the case in terms of what you were explaining about the Afghan Taliban regime and their priorities, then the calls and the reiterations that we've made on this front to the Afghan Taliban regime seem redundant, of course, in the kind of inaction that we've seen from their side. So what lies ahead and what needs to be the appropriate steps taken to protect our own borders?
You see, that's very important. And this is what Chief Army Staff has mentioned many, many times, even in core point conference, that we need to have the best relationship with the interim Afghan government. But the problem is it has to be from both ends. And Afghan Taliban are not realizing that what mistakes they're committing and how much they're bringing this disturbance in the whole region. Because if Afghanistan is peaceful, and if there is no terrorism in Afghanistan, all the terrorist organizations they are kicked out from Afghanistan. See how much is going to be peaceful and mean a lot, not only to Pakistan, but also to China, Central Asia, and even Russia, because the whole route you get connectivity from through Afghanistan to Gwadar and see the whole world market, Africa, then Middle East, and also Europe is available. And it same goes to China. China, it takes 90 days to reach from Indian Arabian Sea, Indian Ocean, Malacca States, South China Sea, and then China itself. 90 days trip on a ship. And from here, Kashgar to Gwadar by road, it takes 8 days. See the difference and see the benefit Pakistan gets through all this traffic which is going from Afghanistan and Balochistan and to China and to Central Asia and Gwadar and the world market. So that's why we say that this is the most important. The government of Pakistan still should try to make Afghanistan understand that how much it affects both the countries. And that if they realize, I think there's a big jump,
But when
economic jump for Pakistan.
you say make them understand, what approach do you think hasn't been tried yet? How do
You
we
see,
make them understand?
we have tried our best, but the thing is now it is enough. The water has crossed over our head. So what we have to tell them, this is the last warning. If you're not doing it, we have all the capability, we have all the capacity to go and do surgical strikes, to destroy terrorist organization, whether they are and the Khawarij of the Taliban, TTP, then is BLA, BLF, BNA, Daesh, anybody who is creating a problem for Pakistan on the border. And then we have to reiterate that please secure your border. That's very important because the biggest act of terrorism through financial terrorism. In that, you have a smuggling, you have a hondi, you have a tire smuggling, you have a cigarette smuggling, billions of dollars amount is coming. And that is the root cause of terrorism. And financial terrorism has to be cut short. And the bankers, it has to be all three, four pronged strategy to work it out. That this, if money is not floated and funneled to these terrorist organizations, their hands will be cut off, their legs will be cut off. They can't get ammunition, they don't get ammunition, they don't get weapons, and they don't get money to their family, they have no attraction. That means they stand still. And that is what is the main reason, and that's the main cause. And that should be Pakistan more worry. And that's why Chief Army Staff has said that we have to go for all government institutions, State Bank of Pakistan, Excise and Taxation, Customs, banks all have to work together to finish it off. The way they all work together to get Pakistan out of the grey list of FATF. So that is to be done, but then we should go for surgical strike. Honestly, I feel that this is the most important thing. Remember, there should be no compromising on terrorism. The more we go swift, the more go we
Right.
storm. And that is what we said, it is the ultimate, the calm,
Yeah.
more important, where the whole nation joins hands together to fight terrorism along with the military in Pakistan.
Absolutely, and that is, of course, very, very important. And Faisal, I want your take on this as well, and what you feel about this approach. But also add to that in terms of what we're facing on the digital front, and that is something that has been reiterated also. And we've seen that's not something that we can link only to the prescribed terrorist organizations or militant groups within or outside of Pakistan. It's also has its elements within the religious elite, within the political sides. And I want your perspective on how exactly is it that we are dealing with those threats, especially on platforms such as social media, which are already very, very difficult to handle.
Yes, Anna, it's a very good question. And of course, I remember since whenever we have been, highlighting the aspect of countering the terrorism, of course, we remember that we have been highlighting one aspect, very important aspect, and that was related to getting house in order. And to me, I think today it was a brilliant step to have all of the ulama and mashayikh in a conference, and of course, laying the what is required. It has been obviously presented to them, and this is getting house in order first. And at the same time, of course, as Chief of Army Staff highlighted, that digital terrorism will not be, of course, accepted in Pakistan, and digital terrorism is being highlighted since a few days. Reason being, it is not only Pakistan which is being affected by it, even the Western countries themselves. I mean, now people are talking in UK, whatever is going on in UK, it has a lot to do with the kind of menace X app is actually making out there, and the rest of the apps they are doing there, because they are fueling it. And it is being said that digital terrorism is actually influencing the societies, and very negatively it is affecting. And same is the case with Pakistan as well. Right now, I think this was the phase in which house in order was the statement that actually came out, in which, of course, Chief of Army Staff and Prime Minister of Pakistan, both of them addressed all of the ulama and mashayikh, telling them and making sure that everyone knows that the most important amongst all is Pakistan itself and the Shariat. There is no compromise on it, and Pakistan and Shariat, they will, of course, persist, and anyone who goes against that, of course, they will never persist. If we talk about, fitna Khawarij, that is entirely against the Shariat itself. It is not only against Pakistan, but of course it is against the Shariat, and that the lines were drawn clearly today, and the focus was on that whatever is going to come in coming days. Of course, the next phase would be, as Brigadier Haris has rightly pointed out, that enough is enough, and people who are across the border being catered in our neighboring Afghanistan, the very Afghanistan that actually sees towards us for wheat, for any other daily items that they need for living. They look towards us, and at the same time they are the very people who are inhibiting all of these terrorists out there and facilitating them there. And if they are not going to counter them, then of course Pakistan has every right to apply all of the all of the military equipment to safeguard ourselves. And I think what was displayed earlier this year when we had a skirmish with Iran, in that in the city of Sarawan, when Pakistan calculatedly bombed the places, even Iran came up with the statement next morning saying that none of its citizens were harmed in it. Only the people who were required by Pakistan, they were the ones who were harmed. So this was the this was the precision with which Pakistan attacked across the border and eliminated the terrorists out there. This is going to be the next episode for Afghanistan if Afghanistan is not coming to sit with Pakistan and to of course negotiate what to do with these terrorists which are being inhibiting there. If they are not going to do that, then of course the next phase is, after getting Pakistan getting house in order, the next phase is that we are of course going to go for the surgical strikes and eliminate one by one all of these terrorists.
All right.
And IBOs will be conducted, and they have been conducted in past as well. And I think the success rate this time around would be far better.
And that's fine. You have said that previously as well, Faisal, and we'll talk about that in further detail. But I also want to come back to the original question because it seems unanswered still in terms of especially the digital media platforms. What is going to be the fight that Pakistan is going to put up, especially with regards to the political and religious elements?
Yes, and obviously when we talk about fighting the digital terrorism, of course it is being fought now, and the people who are involved in these kind of propagandas against the institutions of the security institutions of Pakistan and the government itself, they will be of course taken to the cleaners, and that is the best way forward. Of course, when it is when it comes to people at large, they need to come to terms with it as well, that this menace, even if they are retweeting something or reposting something, even that is contributing towards the violence at large, and of course propagating violence and promoting violence. All of these aspects, they will not be allowed, and I think law will take its course, and our intelligence services and investigation services like FIA, like all of the other institutions, they will be contributing their part in it, and the ones who will be of course propagating all of that propaganda, they will be taken to task.
Right. Farrukh, I want your perspective on this as well, especially what Faisal earlier referred to as the option available to us of surgical strikes, and then also in terms of what the Prime Minister and Chief of Army Staff reiterated, particularly as a united front against terrorism. And of course, when we talk about that, it's not just the PM and the Army Chief, it's all of the other elements involved in this fight. And whether or not there is a complete united front in this regard, and how exactly will that cater to what I earlier also questioned in terms of the political and religious elements within Pakistan?
Right, Sana, thank you very much for the question. Regarding surgical strikes, I think there's an expert on board, so I will leave the kinetic comment on kinetic options to him. I think this is something that came from him, so he can actually explain it better. But regarding the importance of what happened today, and I've been actually pointing out since the war on terror started that we need a counter narrative to whatever narratives the terrorists keep on spouting. And the difficulty, Sana, has been that while the army and law enforcement agencies have been rendering sacrifices, the other elements, especially the civilian side, wasn't actually stepping up to the plate, and because of that we kept on failing on so many counts. But now, given that the army chief is a very smart man, and this goes to his credit, He identified the importance of taking ulama and mashayikh on board as well. And because of that pivot or outreach actually, because of that, what has happened is that now we see a very coherent picture emerging, especially another, feather in the army chief's crown cap is particularly regarding his ability to quote Quran, because he is a Hafiz also, and he, unlike other Hafizin that I have known, he has learned Quran with meaning. So he can immediately give you the appropriate citation of Quran to qualify the argument he is making. And that makes it impossible for any religious cleric to oppose the argument, because it is direct Quran that is being mentioned. So I think that it is a good step, and I think that with this kind of consensus that we saw, and especially the kind of message on the point, with that, what you can do is you can do away with any Taliban or TTP sympathizers in the society, and you can create enough consensus in the society that will ensure that in coming days we can fight with terrorism and get rid of that. Especially given that one thing that really stood out, and I really liked it. Army chief actually pointed out that if you want to appreciate the importance of your nation, just look at the state of affairs in Libya, in Iraq, Syria, even Palestine, right? With that kind of situation, it is important to sensitize the clergy on the importance of your four borders and how effectively you need to govern inside. So I hope that I have actually given answer to your second part of the question. And regarding another thing that I was hoping that you are going to ask me as well, but you asked Faisal, and it was regarding social media and the digital terrorism term that is being used. If in this day and age we think that weaponization of information cannot take place, let us ask Japanese people whose prime minister was killed by somebody who actually downloaded the schematics from online and then 3D patented a crudely made pistol through which he went and killed the prime minister, right? Shinzo Abe, or Abe Shinzo as he was later called. But Abe Shinzo's murder was an example. I think that it is on social media. I think that the prime minister, the army chief, they have actually they have me converted. In the past, I've been always obsessed about my own perspective, that I have a voice. If you curtail social media, my voice will also go away. But then somebody introduced me to a brilliant metaphor recently, somebody very smart, about a shed and living in a shed and going beyond the shed, about perceptions and perspectives. So I think that the kind of horrible propaganda that keeps emanating from social media, I think it is better, if we are going to clamp down, it is better to do it sooner than later.
Right. Brigadier Harris, I want your perspective on this as well, particularly the issues of digital terrorism and moving forward. And also with regards to, of course, when we talk about terrorism from outside of Pakistan, there is, of course, Afghanistan that we look at. But again, there are other elements from the region as well, particularly India and then emanating from Iran as well. And these are threats that Pakistan has been dealing with for quite some time now. So I want your take also on that in terms of the approach that Pakistan has taken, the emphasis that Pakistan has put on different international forums on what exactly needs to be the way forward. But of course, that has not been met with the kind of international response that one would hope for. But what can Pakistan do in its own capacity to making sure that the spoilers coming from within the region are not able to damage the interests of Pakistan?
Sana, I would say the most important thing is that we must have a security conference within this region, because they are the most affected countries like Central Asia, then we have Russia, China, then Iran, Pakistan. So they are all countries which are bordering in this region. Now they need to sit down and work out a strategy. Because you see, Afghan people, when they go to Central Asia, they get a visa. And when they come to Pakistan, they just share ID card they showed and they come to Pakistan. This is one of the factors that we have to control border management. And for that, the custom authority, the immigration authorities have to be very effective. What all we have done, fencing is done 2,600 kilometers. But then still it's a porous border and we have a lot of difficulties. We have around 11,000, 14,000, 1,400 posts along the Afghan border, and they have only 200 Afghan Taliban. See the importance they give to Pakistan as far as their infiltration is concerned. So we have to have a proper border management system, the way it is being done with Central Asia. Can any Afghan go to Central Asia without passport? Not at, no, without visa? No, not at all. So why do we have it? We have already suffered because of 4 million Afghan refugees which are stationed in Pakistan, and still we are going to take the PR residents people in Pakistan in the 1 year. I think the another answer is that we should push them back. It's enough. We've done a lot of hospitality and we've suffered big economic loss. And do Afghan people they realize? No, they don't realize. So what is the issue? Then of course we have a foreign minister conference, but I think the most important thing is of security conference in which security chief of all the country they meet and work out a strategy that how in every country, Central Asia and China, Pakistan, Iran, how we have to ensure together, passing on information, sharing of information, and then doing collective effort to fight against this terrorism and the hostilities because Islamic movement, Turkish movement in northern side is also creating a lot of problems for China. So China is more affected. And then we have to emphasize China and Americans also, they're pumping a lot of money in Afghanistan. And Afghan people have no economic problems, financial problems. So that's what is to be realized. When we talk, if China want to make a CPEC, then China has to support Pakistan. Only when we have terrorism in Pakistan, Chinese people actually they're very annoyed. But then they have to push Afghanistan also because then the day they have a crunch of economic crunch, then they will listen to everyone to Pakistan also. So these are the compound problems with Pakistan that I'm sure things are going to improve and Pakistan can sail through easily through this terrorism and we have peaceful Balochistan to have CPEC and Gwadar put operationalized and then we have a lot of traffic, business traffic going on in Pakistan and a lot of benefits.
Right, absolutely. Brigadier Harris, there is also the fact that when we talk about, and of course, the conference today also was with reference to the ulama and mashayikh, and I want your take particularly in terms of other aspects that were part of the National Action Plan as well, and of course were aimed at building the kind of narrative that exists, building the influence of religion, putting forward the right message, and making sure that we reach our own people and are able to penetrate within these societies and win over the messages coming in from the terrorist organizations and groups. And so I want your take on the role that these ulama and mashayikh can play in this regard, and what exactly will be the sphere of influence of these scholars, and can they actually achieve that influence, and whether or not there has been real effort put into this.
And Brigadier Harris, if you can also address the factor of there are certain religious organizations who are on the basis of course, hatred towards other minorities as well, especially one of the minority is of Qadianis or Ahmadis. There is a political party which calls itself a political party in the guise of course, the religious sentiment, and that is of TLP. Every 3-4 months they come back on the roads once more and they have their own sort of narrative about it. Can we say that this particular conference was obviously an addresser to them elements as well?
You see, Sana, the biggest important thing is the ulama, which we have called religious scholars, because they have different school of thoughts, the religious differences. So they have to play a very major role in eliminating terrorism, because we have 32,000 madrasas in Pakistan and 16,000 are not registered. We don't know what is their agenda, from where they get funding, and then what they are doing it. Now, for that, And then, of course, whenever we talk about going for terrorism or we want to do any madrasa reforms, and they come and they're not happy. So this is the important. This is what Chief Army Staff has stressed on all religious scholars that please, you have very important role to play in cleaning the mind of people of Pakistan. They have different thought. When they go to madrasa, their brains are washed and they're given one focus direction that you have to go for terrorism. And when you're killed, you are shaheed, and then you go to Jannah, and then you get a lot of foods and all those things. You see, that is what they ought to go and tell. What is Islam? What are the tenets of Islam? What is the Islam teaches about the jihad? Who has to declare jihad? And what is the purpose of jihad? Is it to go for some certain own your agendas within your own religious groups, or it is for the state you want to go for jihad? And then they have to be told that how madrasa syllabi can be reformed. It must have religious and also other religious education activities. That should also be taught because they become the useful citizen of Pakistan. It's not only religion. They should be more educated. And when their mind is enlightened, they can deliver. And that is what every madrasa religious scholar has to do all this. And for that, this is what we have been emphasizing, Chief Officer, last minute today, were very categorical. You were very candid in talking all these things. Then they have to go and fall back to the religious, their influence in the madrasa, then tell young people, please work, get religious training, religious education, but then be a patriotic Pakistan. Because killing of a one human being means the killing of all humanity. That is what Islam is, the most peaceful role, Islam. This is the difference, and this is what is to be done when we talk about madrasa reform, and that is really missing in all the direction, and that is very, very important. Likewise, then we are talking the way Faisal asked for this TLP. You see, nobody has right to pass comments on anything. Anybody who recites kalma and he believes in Prophet, that means he is Muslim. Then we don't have to say who is Shia, who is Sunni, who is Ahl Sunnat, who is what. That we have got nothing. Let the God decide. We don't have to pass our own thoughts on others. That's so in Pakistan, all living Pakistanis are Pakistanis. Then they have to declare their belief, whatever it is, whether it's Qadiani, whosoever it is. They have all the right to work, but then you have to be, if you're minorities, Qaeda Muhammad al-Jinnah was very particular. In our flag, the white portion is for minorities. And they have all free to go all over. The way they want to go for release obligation, they are free to do everything. We should be considering that they are not talking against Pakistan interest and they are Pakistanis. So this is also very important. We have to ensure and work on it. And this, or release organizations have been told that please remain within the bounds of certain things, don't cross those limits because that creates a lot of fitna and fasad and that should not be done and we can't afford it.
Right, and Brigadier Saab, the Chief of Army Staff has also spoken about tolerance, and what you've said also points towards that. And I understand the role that the religious ulama and scholars can actually play in this regard. But when we talk about inculcating tolerance in a society, especially when it comes to religious ideologies, in which is very easy to differentiate between yourself and the other based on your beliefs, how exactly do you think the state can actually help, the military can actually help, other institutions can actually help, especially in terms of putting forth a system where everyone is indeed protected if somebody is trying to other a person. We've seen that there is also need within our judiciary as well, within our laws, in order to ensure that, and the kind of interpretation that we've seen of various incidents in the countries by different institutions point towards the power of the religious elite or the power of certain segments of the society who are talking about intolerance or who talk about segmenting the society based on a multiple of variables and not provide that kind of safety and security that a state must. So what role does the state have in this regard?
You see, this is also very important because we feel there's a big intolerance in the society, and particularly one of the reasons is that when the other political party, we all know what has happened over that, and that intolerance come into the youth. They have to be told and they have to be guided, and that's the again responsibility of the parents, teachers in the universities, and the religious
But
scholars
Brigadier Sahab,
who have
my
to.
question is whether or not that will actually come from guidance. Will that actually happen? Shouldn't the system in itself also be strengthened, particularly when we talk about accountability and consequences?
You see, that's the most important thing. You see, and the problem is with judiciary. The judiciary has to be in line when we talk about National Action Plan or 14 points recently decided. In that, the major part judiciary have to play it, because we always say justice delayed, justice denied. So they have to be mindful and they're speedy trial. You see what happened in England? These rights against minorities in England, within 3 days the culprits have been punished for 3 years, 4 years, 2 years. This is what matters when you say the immediate punishment, immediate justice, because then people understand what is the gravity of going for any offense or taking law into your hands. When the cases takes 8 to 9, 10 years, then see what happens. And that's why Pakistan Army has been harping all the time that please decide why you're going to stay on military courts, because certain decisions are pending. If those people have been punished, Banu incident wouldn't happen. And judiciary should be mindful when you give stay on each and everything. Please evaluate 2,700 billions are of income tax and different sale tax are pending cases in courts. Just see how much can give boost
Right.
to economy. Likewise, when we talk about the all the special anti-terrorist court, they have to decide cases in 2 to 3 months, not taking time. This is one of the major factor which adds and give a fire to this intolerance.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Brigadier Haris Nawaz, for joining us and being a part of today's discussion. Yes, Farrukh, you wanted to add something?
Thank you, Sana, once again. Regarding the narrative building and particularly clergy, the most important thing is that we structure it in such a way that we can identify who is being motivated by what. For example, there is a cadre of people who actually are motivated by ideology. So that is the easiest part, because ideology or whatever confusion there might be, it can be dispelled, and that's why I pointed out how important the role of army chief becomes, because he understands everything, right? The second one is people who are motivated by something else, particularly political interest. Remember that if you do something incredibly unusual, what happens is that you become prominent. So that is why people like TLP that Faisal mentioned actually come to the fore, and they keep on pushing the boundary. So what do you do with them? You find a way to ensure that their political interests are tied to their cooperation with the state, right? The third one are the people that usually are the biggest problem. People who can be paid to do whatever you want, and usually it is thought that the other side has more money than your side, and that's why you cannot win them over, and they usually are lost. So with that kind of people, you have to put a lot of pressure of the state and expose them, so that in the future they cannot actually go ahead with that. Regarding another thing that I said, I was talking about social media, and somebody just messaged me watching the program that your audience will also suffer if you are going to, if there's going to be a social media ban. So I am reminded of something that somebody told me, a foreigner, that those who follow me will find a way to get to my message, even if I'm in a small cell of a jail without any communication, without even a pen and a paper. So I'm glad to report that I have very loyal base. They will find a way to get to whatever I have to say.
All right.
And we don't have to worry.
Thank you, Farrukh, and thank you, Faisal, for joining us in the debate. As always, that's all that we have from the show today. We'll now see you tomorrow.